Hello, my name is Matthew Perez, and this is my Week 6 presentation about National Aeronautics and Space Administration, also known as NASA. In this presentation, I'll be discussing reasons why NASA should expand, why NASA should be limited, and the public opinion about NASA. There are some basic arguments for why NASA should grow. One reason is NASA studies items that private space companies will not consider since there is no return on investment. For example, spending resources on studying meteors or creating satellites to track worldwide concerns, such as Earth and Sun daily weather patterns, uh, would not be useful for private companies since they cannot make a profit on it. There are other reasons, though, that aren't as noticeable. For example, the Constitution states a need for an army and navy, which can be thought of as a need for public safety. Just like the Founding Fathers had no idea there'd be a need for an Air Force, there was no way the Founding Fathers could have guessed the need for NASA. An argument can be made that NASA fits the public safety role since it tracks meteors and weather patterns. The need for the U.S. to be number one in the world for space exploration can also be thought of as a foreign policy. Political scientist Aaron Wildavsky suggested that the U.S. has more control over American foreign policy than its domestic policy. As a result, Wildavsky would agree, if the U.S. is a front runner in space aeronautics, then it would show world leaders how dominant the U.S. is. It would also be counterproductive for NASA to decentralize, to have each state have their own space aeronautics program, since there would be less innovation due to states having less resources to fund a space program. On the contrary, an argument can be made about limiting NASA's role, especially after the US showed its dominance in 1969 with Apollo 11 moon landing and the iconic flag planting. The first reason why NASA should be limited is the private sector may be more innovative than the public sector. Economist Alice Rivlin's idea that decentralization allows managers to have more freedom, thus resulting in an increase in productivity, can be proven by the innovative technology private space aeronautic companies such as Blue Origin and SpaceX have shown. Rivlin also believed private companies can still be held accountable when comparing outputs and reward the companies that produce most efficiently. Rivlin's ideas parallel classic theorist Max Weber's idea that whether in a public or private bureau, officials will always strive for a higher social self-esteem compared to the ones that are governed. Because of less innovation, the second reason why NASA should decrease the scope of agency is that bigger government results in a corrupt, democratic government due to interest groups controlling public philosophy. And political scientist Theodore Lowy believed public order begins to suffer when government agencies increase. As a result, NASA's role should be limited to control interest groups and allow the free market enterprises to work with NASA to grow the space exploration program. In addition, political scientist Dwight Waldo would also agree decentralization would bring independence, elasticity, plus responsibility, which would make private space companies have freedom from government intervention. And the third reason why NASA should be limited is due to the Constitution not providing any guidance towards exploration. Debating whether the Constitution allows the need of NASA has credible points on both sides, which leads me to my next slide about public opinion. To get a better understanding of how the public feels about NASA, a survey of 11 people was taken. 7 out of 11 people believed NASA should grow, while 4 people thought its role should be decreased. Each person who wanted it to grow had the same justification, that NASA would benefit future generations and help society grow. Other reasons people wanted NASA to increase was, quote, they felt that NASA was the eyes and ears in space. It helped science, technology, engineering, math programs become more popular, and NASA could find a way to live on a different planet. The people who thought NASA should decrease believed the funds would be better spent elsewhere, and two of the people thought NASA already receives too much public funds. One person wanted the funds to go towards public safety and animal rights, and the other person said the money should be spent on the Space Force project. It is interesting to learn the majority of people interviewed still found it important to continue the space exploration for future generations. To note, NASA's budget for the fiscal year 1819 is $19.6 billion, which is out of a $4.4 trillion, and which means NASA's budget is less than 0.5% of the entire federal budget. As a result, there are valid arguments for both options, and this debate will continue to be discussed for decades to come. Here are my list of references, and thank you for listening to my presentation, and good luck on your written assignment.